take and roll or anything. This is primarily going to be discussion and priority setting. So I think we can just roll right into the topics and discussion here. And with this being the transportation side of things, I think what we'll start with, as long as the co-chairman's okay with this, we'll just start with the department. So we'll have Mr. Westby and any of your group that wants to join you. Bring forward any of the topics that you guys have submitted for us. And we'll start with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Darren Westby, YDOT, newly minted or confirmed, I should say. But thank you for that, by the way. Yep, Mr. Chairman and committee, we submitted, I think, 3 topics. One being taking a deep dive into, well, from what I heard on the floor and some of the testimony in committee throughout this session was maybe we need to spend a little bit more time educating, not necessarily from this committee, but just on the floor, educating on the history of YDOT funding, looking at the breadth and scope of the agency, what it actually does, showing the impacts, and then looking at the funding streams, the historic, where we've been, looking into the future of where we need to be to ensure that we're going to be successful with our mission. So that's really the first topic request. The second topic request lends itself to a lot of the national push, not just within our state. We have safety concerns within our state, but a national push to go to 0 fatalities. And so there's a lot of topics that are floating out there right now that I think as a state of Wyoming, we need to at least take a look at and see if there's any policy that needs to be made to ensure that we can help our traveling public and our agency be more safe and ensure that we can try to decrease our fatalities. Nationally, there's 44,000 fatalities. In the state of Wyoming, we had 144. That's probably 144 too many. And so we're going to try to do whatever we can to ensure that if there's a policy that needs to be made, that we can help decrease that. We're going to try to push those forward with you. And then the last one is just statutory updates. As with everything going through the statutes, we see whether they're outdated, whether they need to be improved. And so Title 31 is where I kind of stuck that one. But looking through some of the rest of the topics, there might be some other topics in the packet that might fall into that same category that might be helpful to combine. But and with that, Mr. Chairman and committee, I'd sit for any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Committee, any questions for the Director? All right, seeing none, we're going to let you off easy with that one. I think, so the 3 that I hear, just to make sure I've got everything written down, we've got the YDOT funding, road safety is what I'll call it instead of what I have written down, and then statutory updates.
Those are the 3 that we proposed, okay. Mr. Chairman, and just for your all information, we were up in joint appropriations this morning. They too had a YDOT funding topic on their list, and I was able to present with them. So hopefully, as presented, when we presented our budget, we proposed a potential 3 committee, joint transportation, militaries, highways, joint revenue, and joint appropriations to try to ensure that we can educate as many and as much as possible, knowing what we're going to be going into the next session. So
it feels like it's March 7th outside, but every single day that I sit on this committee, it seems to be Groundhog's Day because we continuously have to have this discussion. So I think this will definitely be one of the top priorities for us as a committee. So thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes, Director, before you head, Senator Furphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'll be looking forward on my topic about Highway 287. We had a celebration last night for the 3 students that were killed on that highway. So when we get to my topic, I would like to discuss coordinating between YDOT and the Colorado Department of Transportation. So I'll wait till my topic, but I just wanted to make you aware I'm going to be asking about that. We've got to come to some solution. We've had too many deaths on that highway. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, while I'm seated, I might as well address it a little bit and, compassionately, like I said before, 144 last year, that's 144 too many. So we totally concur with one fatality is too many. And so just to ease a little bit of the concern, we have and continue and will continue to work with our surrounding states on all of our collaborations to ensure that what we do together is meaningful and impactful to the traveling public. And we are currently working with them on that stretch of road more in their area to make sure that it ties in better with ours. But from go back to the safety topic, a lot of this is behavioral based that I want to make sure that from a safety perspective that we're educating the public on the need to ensure that the traveling public is doing their job to ensure safety as well. And I don't know if that's going to the university and personally and having discussions about how important it is to not be distracted, how not to be mindful of wearing your seatbelt and to be mindful of your speeds on that road, because it's had an impact. And so I want to maybe two-prong it, not just from an engineering design perspective, but from a behavioral based standpoint to ensure that I look at the stats, I get the stats. Unfortunately, I get every fatality that comes across in the state of Wyoming. I get to see it. I get to see the inspection or the report that comes out. I get to read all the data as to why and the what. And unfortunately, way too many of those fatalities come out without wearing a seatbelt. Single rollover crash. One was wearing a seatbelt, one wasn't, one perished. And that's, to me, is why. I just beat my head against the wall going, I don't understand that. That could have been one less, just click it. So, but yes, Senator, I agree. We'll take a look at it.
You bet. We'll go down that line. Senator Culp?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Newly minted Director Westby, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just a question about, I'll try to phrase it as a failure analysis. So we're talking about fatalities. Do you go through those and analyze the highways in the state of Wyoming and kind of maybe go through a process of saying that these areas seem to be above the mean norm for these kind of things to happen? Or maybe it's a problem with the side of the road. Maybe it's a problem with, like you say, people don't understand about seat belts. But to go through it and say, for whatever reason, in this area, we have a lot of fatalities, and analyze why and try to then drill down into that situation and figure out what you could do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Director, I'll let you go ahead and answer that. I think that'll probably be a little bit more in-depth discussion when we get there, but please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just briefly, yes, that's exactly what we do. We take a look at a heat map of all the crashes, whether serious, fatality, personal property, and analyze all that to ensure that we're not seeing a concentrated issue in one area. And then we look at the design, we look at the behavioral base, and then we try to adjust and educate and fix as we need to. But yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Director. All right, so we've got one half of the home committee process through here. We'll go ahead and bring up the military department next. General, Chris, Tim, if you want to join, I'm supposing you probably have something to say, so go ahead and just save the time and bring you all up together.
Maybe Greg will let you. Mr.
General,
Chairman,
please.
Yep. Hey, thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody. I know it's been a long session, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here just to discuss a few things with you in terms of interim topics that I think are upcoming. I believe you have a set of slides from us that really kind of get after ours. And so, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want us to go through the handout, do it that way, or through this. It's really your whatever you believe.
You know, I think I'll let the committee figure out which way they want to go through it. If you just want to run through
Slides?
what your top 3 priorities are and where you guys are going for.
All right, if you move to the slides on the second page, really gets to the 3 issues that we would like to do further study on. The first one is protections on the use of deadly force. This really gets after to some of the military equipment and defense of that military equipment, depending on if we're in a Title 32 status or under the governor's control. Chris, I think I was going to have you talk a little bit about that just to lay out the problem real quick, and then we'll drive on.
Okay, Colonel Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Smith from the Wyoming Military Department. Use of deadly force, this committee perhaps recalls we've tweaked, we have a strong immunity language when Guard members are operating on their orders. But what we haven't really addressed is the criminal piece with the use of deadly force. Our training for our security forces members includes using deadly force for some types of property. In the state of Wyoming, under 6-6201, I think it is, it's the castle doctrine. You can use deadly force to protect yourself or others, people, but you can't use it to protect property. As this committee is probably well aware, after 9/11, certain things like aircraft are now things we need to keep people from stealing. So we want to look at whether or not we need to expand the Wyoming law about criminal liability for using deadly force to protect property, and then only certain property, obviously. If you're going to steal my truck, it's a 2006, I'll waive. But when you're stealing an aircraft, it's a bigger deal. So that's what we would like to look at.
What age are those aircraft? No, I'm just kidding.
Older than my truck.
Exactly. That's where I was going with that. Excellent. Okay, so we've got protections for use of deadly force. Next one I have is veteran and military member suicide prevention.
Yep. Tim, you want it, or I've got this one? Really, it's getting after the increase in suicide deaths in our veteran population, and the fact that we're not making as much of an effective dent in that as we want to. So really, this is going to discuss, we talk a little bit about firearms and gun locks, but really we'd like to take a broader approach as well and just see what else out there can be done to help mitigate veteran suicide.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, do you have anything? It looks like we've got you listed as the first subsect of the military department. Do you have anything in particular you're interested in with that?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Specifically, I'm interested in how we look at the property tax exemption and those dollars in helping veterans and service members meet their requirements, because fiscal is definitely an issue for them. So we'd just like to look at the property tax exemption, how we go about it, who qualifies for it in relation to that issue.
Okay, perfect. And then what we'll do, we'll go into the third one here, and then we'll open up for any questions from the committee. So the next one I have is a follow-up to one from a couple years ago, the recruiting assistance.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, this committee sponsored a bill that allowed a referral bonus to National Guard members that referred an individual that ultimately became enlisted in the Wyoming National Guard. That's going fairly well, but we've probably got upwards of, between the two services, around 40 additional enlistments. We'd look at the opportunity to maybe broaden that to our retirees and potentially those that are trying to enlist, just to engender more enlistments to come to us. So we would like to study that and see the opportunity to see if the committee would entertain an expansion of that. And that's in a nutshell what that's about, sir.
Okay. And then I've got chairman's additions as well here, so I'll let you just take the floor for a few minutes.
Yeah,
Mr.
sure,
Chairman.
that sounds good. And on that last topic, I'm wondering if we may even take a little bit broader look at overall recruiting and retention beyond just the programs. Just have another look at, since we do have a new committee, then, and certainly that those programs will be a part of it. But hopefully we can have a nice broad look at in strength, how that has affected in strength, and maybe there's other things that we can be doing also. So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
now moving on, there's like I said, there's a chairman's addition. So it's my understanding we actually didn't do anything with one of our topics from this year, which was, I think we ran a modified budget amendment in the Senate and didn't make it. That was the extent of our efforts to help veterans and post-secondary institutions. And so I think that's something that we should take up again. I don't think we really did anything there. And so that could also, work pretty well with another topic, which, I think if you're in the Senate, at least maybe in the House, you hear a lot about the land grant mission of our only four-year university in the state. And one way we can do, we can help the university and help that mission in a way that is, I think, supported by the vast majority of the state, is to support a land grant function, which includes military science. And so that would be another possibility that we look at bolstering, not just in more than just ROTC, but international studies, foreign languages, have a national security focus at the university and help along with those efforts at our university. And so something similar to what we did in the Agriculture Committee, I think with a decent amount of success, we really helped boost the College of Agriculture. And maybe this is something we can look into to do something similar for military or national security related topics at the university. So those are my ideas. One of them was a previous idea. We'll do something this time, I promise. But so.
Okay. You guys have anything else for us beyond what you've proposed at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman, no.
So we'll bring it back up to the dais. Representative Stivar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back on one, protection of use of deadly force. Wouldn't this fall under rules of engagement? Or will that be part of this, of how your rules of engagement are wrote up for each exercise or each thing you do?
So Colonel Smith, again, I think it's a good question, but I think one that we will probably dive into once committee directives are established. We certainly don't want to go down into the weeds on it right now, just like the other question. So please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, regarding Representative Stiver's question, it is part of our rules of engagement. It's just from a criminal liability standpoint, we never really addressed it in statute. If something happened in the state of Wyoming, some sheriff or law enforcement person could arrest the military member using deadly force to protect property under the current law, even if they were following the rules of engagement. That's the concern.
Okay. Committee, any further questions, thoughts, ideas for the military department? Seeing none. Okay. That takes care of the two committees, or I'm sorry, the two departments for the home committee for here. With that, we've got quite a few other opportunities here that have been presented to us via legislator. And I think what we'll do is we will open that up through the legislators that are in the room. And I think I only see one that is present here. So Representative Chestick. Oh, Dan Larson too. Why don't you come on up as well, Representative Larson, or I'm sorry, Senator Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have one interim topic to present to you, which I think we also talked about last session. Last session, I did run a bill to limit train lengths. This is on page 1 of the packet. It was presented to the Corporations Committee last session, and while we were there at the testifying on it, East Palestine was happening while we're sitting there testifying about it. So it was an overlong train that derailed, and you all know what happened in East Palestine. And the train length probably was a contributing factor to that train derailing. The topic that I want to propose, it's a fairly complex topic, which is why it's, I think, appropriate for an interim study. It has a lot of implications for a lot of different industries and a lot of different people. There's two main issues that we would deal with. One is public safety, and the second one is transportation backlogs and clogs that these long trains cause. The public safety issues are pretty obvious. The longer trains do derail more frequently, and they cause blockages of grade crossings for longer periods of time. And that's a major issue that I think is a public safety issue that we really need to deal with. The transportation clogging problem is the fact that these trains are longer than most sidings. So the shorter trains have to get off on the on the sidings that they fit on. So the long trains can go past, and minerals, especially in the western part of the state, have had some some backlogs and some inability to ship product, which affects those industries. It affects our extraction fees. It has a big impact on our economy. But also, this topic relates to some other topics that I think you're going to be considering as well. Passenger rail service, for example. There's topics here that you're going to be talking about passenger rail service and expanding that, which I'm totally in favor of. But these backlogs caused by long trains will hinder the ability for passenger trains to keep a schedule. Because the passenger trains are going to be using the same freight lines. And if those freight lines are being clogged up by longer trains, then the passenger train has to sit and wait. It's going to have to get off on the siding, and it's going to impair the ability for passenger trains, if we can get them going, to keep their schedules. And that's going to make those trains less reliable and less useful. So I think it does tie into other topics that I hope that the committee also takes up. In closing, very quickly, I do want to point out that similar bills have been, in the last year, 7 different states have introduced bills. Some of them are still in the process. They're still working their way through the legislative process in other states. Mostly Western states, a couple of East Coast states have dealt with these. In Nevada, it passed the legislature, but was vetoed by the governor, so it didn't go into effect. And there's other states where it has passed one chamber or some committee. So it is being discussed around the region. And I think it's something that we need to study and consider if there's something that we can do to help out both our industries and our passengers, if we can get passenger rail going. I would stand for questions.
Committee, any questions for Representative Chestek? Yes, Representative Wiley and then Representative Pendergraft.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Chestek, I sit on corporations as well. Have you got any findings from the federal study that we talked about from last year?
Representative Chestek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Wiley, not yet. There is a study underway. It's not yet complete. I have looked at that, and it's not yet done. But it would still require, this is an unregulated field in terms of national regulations. So that's why different states are looking at doing this. Any report that comes out of the federal government would have to get adopted or acted on by Congress. I'm not optimistic with the way Congress has been passing bills recently. It's kind of at an impasse on lots of stuff. So I do think it's hard to wait for Congress to do something. I think we ought to take it up and do something ourselves.
Okay, Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Chestek, I don't want to get into the weeds. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I'm curious about the scope of this. How long are trains now permitted to be, and what would your suggestion be? Thank you.
Right now, there is no,
Chestek.
I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Pendergraft, right now, there is no limitation to how long a train can be. There are trains that are 3 miles long right now, and that's the typical standard train length is about 8,500 feet, a little over a mile and a half. There are double trains that are 3 miles long, and those are the ones that are causing the major problems. Not every train is that long, but there's enough of them that it causes a problem.
Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, a question. You stated that the reason for derailments was the train length. I assume then you have an NTSB report that has concluded that. I'd like to see that if you have it, in the future. And then secondarily, frankly, I really wonder what kind of issue this is at the end of the day. We've had, a union issue about train lengths. In my area, they need the lengths of trains because there's an ability to get trains to haul trona. There's a lot of issues there and a lot of congestion. So if you could help me straighten out that conflict that I've heard, I don't know, generally believe, maybe clarify that for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Chestek, briefly, I don't want to get into the merits of the discussion on whether or not we should be doing this in the interim topic setting.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Kolb. Yes, this is why we need an interim topic study. We can bring the data to an interim topic so you can see the data. And in my view, this is not a union bill. This is a public safety bill and public convenience bill. So it has nothing to do with the unions as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. One more, Representative Pendergraft.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I my question earlier included two parts. The second part was what was your recommendation? How short are you trying to get these trains? Thank you.
Representative Chestic.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Representative Pendergraph. We're asking for 8,500 feet length. The bill that passed in Nevada had it at 7,500 feet. That went shorter, but we're going to say the standard train length, 8,500 feet, is what we would permit under the proposal. Again, that's up for study and discussion in an interim committee.
All right. Thank you, Representative Chestic. We're going to go ahead and move on to Senator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you for hearing this. I'd like to see if you might consider an interim topic dealing with the State Guard. And I want to make sure I clarify, this is in Title 19, there's two chapters. There's a chapter on the National Guard, Wyoming National Guard, and then there's a title on the Wyoming State Guard. In that section, there's reference to having to get permission from the federal government to do a state guard. And in their laws at the federal level, they don't want anything to do with the state guards. And so the main point was, let's get the federal reference to the federal government out of that. And it's at the governor's option to organize it and stuff, but we can get into detail if we need it. But that's pretty much what it's about.
Appreciate the brevity, Senator. Thank you. Committee, any questions for Senator? Seeing none. Thank you. Representative Larson, do you want to join us? JT, yeah, we've got a representative and since you're the only other representative in here, I think that you were the co-sponsor along with myself and Representative Wiley about e-titling. Do you want to give us a brief rundown of what your proposal is for the interim topic?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Joint Transportation Committee. We brought e-titling forward for your consideration as an interim topic. This is something that a lot of states are doing or already have done and are implementing, and this basically upgrades our titling system throughout the states. So it's a pretty cool interface. I've gone through some different demos and gives a dealer interface for titles, gives a state interface, and then as well as a county interface so that they can provide all the same services, but it provides everything on a electronic system, so that way people don't have to worry about losing paper titles and that type of stuff. They use blockchain to verify who the owner of the specific vehicle is, and so I guess I'd stand for any questions.
Committee, yes, Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, we have a digital bank, so to speak, that you're speaking of. Is there paper backups in different places and other places? Thank you.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative. So this wouldn't, in my mind, would not take away the paper option, because a lot of people still do like the paper option. This just gives the opportunity to have it electronically, just like similar bills that I've done in the past. So.
Vice Chairman O'Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many other states are doing this? And I see you got a bunch of different organizations and associations that are wanting this to happen. Why the 6 to 10 hours that it would take to study this process?
Representative, if you've got the discussion, you're more than welcome to answer that, but we can certainly go down that road with a couple of the associations as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as the numbers on how many states, I know that there's quite a few, but I don't have an exact number for you, so I'm not going to speculate. And then, yes, there are a lot of associations, and the challenge is with we just have to reach into a lot of different parts of statute to correct things, and so discussing that and making sure that we have everything fixed within statute, so that way we can plug this program in, is the reason why it will take so long. But I'm sure the associations can speak to that as well.
Any further questions for the representative? Seeing none, thank you for being here. All right, I think that gets all of the proposed topics out of the way for anybody sitting in the audience. I do know that we have, let's go ahead and go to anybody that has submitted some to the committee through the dais. And we'll just start down over here. Representative Pendergraft, do you have anything that you've submitted? Representative Wiley? Yes, Senator Pappas?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, know, I'm in the other committee as well. On the
Okay.
other, so I'm going to step out
Perfect.
for now. I'll be
Understood.
going back and forth.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Kolb, you have anything?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Senator Furphy, did you want to touch on your topic anymore?
Well, maybe so.
Okay, please. You can just stay here. No, you can just stay here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, what I'd really like to get is someone from the Colorado Department of Transportation, if they would come and testify before this committee on this topic of safety on Highway 287. So maybe if Director Westby could contact them and see if they might be willing to come before us, and let's discuss funding, how we could fund improvements to that highway. Because the director is absolutely correct. We've made significant improvements on the Wyoming side, but it's still very dangerous. Still, people speed too fast. It's a shortcut to get to Fort Collins. I guess I can use that.
You can use that in here. You're fine.
Between my community, otherwise you've got to take the interstate to Cheyenne and then down south to head the community. So a lot of people utilize 287. But lately, all the deaths on that, it's a death trap. And so we have to come up with a solution. So that's what I'd like to do, is if we can get Colorado to participate with us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Not sure how likely they would be to join the Wyoming legislature, but we could certainly give them a shot, and we'll, I think we can loop that in with the safety topics here. Chairman, you want to go through anything on yours, or you're good? Okay. Representative O'Hearn, nothing? Berger? You have a couple of topics in here. Did you want to touch on those?
So the topic here that that I was looking at is the a trailer permanent registration for trailers, and kind of share it with a couple others from the House to take a look at. And then another one would be the length of trailers.
Okay. All right. So we'll just put that underneath trailers. Representative Stivar? All good. Representative Neiman?
I got a couple things on here, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Well, through the Highway Patrol reached out to me about updating some of the statutes. Seatbelts is a primary offense. Right now, you can't get pulled over for it. You can get a ticket for it, but they got to find another violation. Also, I'd like to revisit the rear-facing child seat bill that we worked last year. And additional fines for speeding beyond over 100 miles an hour, and changing the crash damage as required in statutes we have right now. And the second thing would be exploring funding for our regional emergency response teams, as well as our bomb squads throughout the state.
Okay. Representative Smith, I think you have at least one that I saw, correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, I would just like the committee to consider possible revisions for hit and run responsibilities and penalties. So if you want more information, you can look for House Bill 149.
All right. All right, committee, beyond that? Yes.
Going back to one of Representative Dynamics' proposals with the, the bomb squad emergency response, I'm just wondering, was there any consideration as to what committee to put that in, since generally we don't deal with Homeland Security? I was just wondering if you had any thought or discussion as to what the best home for that topic would be.
Representative?
Mr. Chairman, I had not, so I just thought they put it here, so.
We do have the department. I see Director Budd sitting back there. So Director Budd, if you wouldn't mind, we'll bring you up and maybe you can shed some light on, this might actually be your first time in front of me, so.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Committee. Thank you for looking at this topic for us. One of the reasons that we thought it might fit, number one, we don't have a home committee. There is no committee that addresses public safety in general or emergency response in general. So we tried to pick something that would work. The regional emergency response teams, the hazmat teams, do respond onto highways all the time. So there's my connection. They do, and if you feel like there's a different committee that would be appropriate, we just figured that might be a good idea to work through that venue with that particular topic.
Okay, Vice Chair or Co-Chairman?
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like an important topic. It was just, I was drawing blanks. What
Yeah.
was your home committee? And now I know
Me
why.
too.
'Cause there is none. So, okay, interesting. So yeah, we'll definitely offer that up to Management Council. Usually they're best suited to make those sorts of decisions, as to dividing up workload. But yeah, I'm sure we'd love to have the topic, depending on what else we have going on. So.
Yeah, I seem to think this fits in our wheelhouse, and I actually wrote down, maybe we need to change the name of our committee, include public safety on there. Senator Kolb?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just probably circle back a little bit. When we are dealing with another interim topic that we just went through the Senate, say it's a bill that failed badly, I think there's some consideration, maybe some conversation about why we would want to do it again. And it's particularly about making a seatbelt primary offense that didn't work. And I want to make sure we're efficient and we don't, backtrack on something that we're going to have trouble moving it all forward.
Yeah. So, Director, you're good to go. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys coming all the way down here. Don't disagree with you at all. I think that's one thing that I have seen happen on this committee multiple times is, we're going to rehash the same old ideas. And that's why I say the Groundhog Day effect, not the most effective way to govern. So we will work through that. One of the biggest things that, before we head into public comment, one of the biggest things that has to happen is Chairman and I are going to have to work to take this list of information here, condense it down into 3 to 5 topics, take that to Management Council, and then they're going to divvy up whether or not, we take on certain topics or not. So everybody's welcome to bring those ideas forward, and that's why we ask for them. But the workload with only 6 days that's a lot of extra work inside of those. So with that, we will open this up for public comment. Is there any public comment on any of the topics proposed? Please come on forward. Bobby? And if you are interested in coming forward, I do ask that you come and fill the chair so we can just go straight down the line. We don't have to wait for musical chairs to end.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bobby Frank with the Wyoming Credit Unions, Wyoming's financial co-ops, member-owned co-ops. Speaking to the electronic titling interim study topic, as previously noted and indicated, there's quite a number of groups that have been meeting and discussing moving the state forward in electronic titling. You can also add to that list State Farm Insurance. We, through the YDOT, have been meeting since this summer discussing and exploring different alternatives for moving forward with electronic titling. One of the reasons for the request is because some states that do electronic titling simply issue the title itself electronically and then conduct an electronic lien release. What our group discussed is a desire to move the whole process to an electronic process from beginning to end. And as Representative Larson indicated, even though we're one of the states that hasn't done this yet, in all answer Representative O'Hearn's question, related to status across the country, but our desire is to be more efficient than maybe even the other states that have led in this area. And being behind in this particular case is probably a good thing. We'll learn from the other states, and the technology has advanced considerably since electronic titling started occurring. And to answer the question, the Representative O'Hearn, you asked, 15 states have mandatory electronic titling, 13 have voluntary, 9 have active initiative. They're working on moving to electronic titling. 5 have the authority to do so, but are not moving forward. We're included in that count. And 5 have no ELT authorization. Addressing the question on the timeframe, Mr. Chairman, that was a guess. To be completely honest about it, the work group that's been meeting over the summer with the leadership of the Department of Transportation has identified potential statutory changes in 3 different titles. Having said that, we've done a lot of work in the inventory that probably will help to expedite the process and the discussion. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any other questions or defer to any members of our coalition that would like to see this move forward.
Committee, any questions for Ms. Frank? Seeing none, you're going to get off easy too. Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Chairman, Scott Meyer on behalf of the Wyoming Bankers Association. I'll just say I echo the same comments that Ms. Franks did, but we did in fact have this working group. I think that you've seen some of these things happen in the past when we tried to do different things like changing LLC statutes and corporate statutes. These are just too big to not having a working group that provides the legislature with the expertise and the discussion ahead of time. So we've done that and look forward to working with you this next year.
Appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. Meyer? Okay, seeing none, thank you guys both for being here and thank you for submitting the topic. Ms. Little.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kelly Little with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. I just wanted to speak on behalf of my members in supporting the topic related to having a comprehensive look at the funding mechanisms for WYDOT and what we can do to help bolster long-term sustainable funding for our road system, which is one of the state's greatest assets. I know Director Westby mentioned possible multi-committee approach, and we are eager and willing to be part of that conversation moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Little? Appreciate it, thank you. Any further public testimony on any of the topics? I do see the governor's office here. Nothing back there, okay? Didn't mean to make everybody turn around and look at you, sorry. Throw you right out there to the wolves. Taylor's over here, everybody look at Taylor, so. All right, well, we will close public comment then. Committee, let's go down the line here. Oh yeah, we do have a couple online, I am sorry. Thank you. I have a sheet right in front of me. So let's go ahead and bring in Mr. Rose.
Mr. Rose doesn't have his hand up, but I can certainly promote him to the room.
Well, we will see if he wants to talk. And I actually meant to get to Devin earlier because he's actually carrying this on behalf of Representative Walters, but nothing?
Still no hand raised.
Okay, all right, let's go to Devin. Devin, I know you were in front of Education as well, but welcome to the Transportation Committee with the same topic. You would think after 4 years of Zoom, we would have this figured out, but.
I have promoted him 3 times, but I don't see him.
Okay, all right. Well, committee, with that being said, I do not have anybody online, actually. With that, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and I think what we're gonna do is briefly, we'll go back same way we just did. Top priorities you'd like to see the committee handle. And we'll take all your information as the chairman, and we will move forward with that as kind of the proposed topics as we move forward. So Representative Pendergraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm always interested in how YDOT is funded. That to me is kind of an enigma. I'd like to figure out if we can actually do some good there and straighten out a lot of issues that we've heard about for quite some time.
Okay.
I think that one stands out primarily. There are some that I am definitely not interested, but.
That'll work too. So we're just good there. Representative Wiley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think YDOT's a continuing issue, looking at the funding, what we're gonna have to do one day. That's pretty pertinent. Also, I think this e-tiling thing is a pretty, a pretty good thing to start working towards, moving the state in the right direction. And we've been taking little baby steps and kind of intertwining this sweater of technology that we got going. So let's keep working towards that.
Okay. Senator Cole?
Well, I too would think that the e-filing of titles is worthy of a conversation. I do, however, think it's going to take a lot of time to deal with it because there's a lot of parts. I think it's a huge time commitment, but I think it's an inevitability. My only biggest concern, frankly, is cracking the encryption with quantum computing. It will render everything they talked about as encryption irrelevant, and I am concerned about that. Thank you.
Senator Furphy, anything further beyond your 287 marks sticks out to you?
Mr. Chairman, I am very interested in this proposed proposal topic on Amtrak and getting regional rail in Wyoming. I think that makes a lot of sense, and so I'd like to hear about those proposals.
Okay. Appreciate that. We'll come back to the chairman. Vice Chair O'Hearn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Senator Cole mentioned it, e-tiling. That's why I circled that 6 to 10 hours with that many people working on it. You know, I had a bill this year about networking and newspapers, and a 2-page bill turned out to be almost 300 pages long because of all the different places that it was applicable to. I'm concerned about ROE on, I think that might be a big topic with civilians and equipment, with the military maybe becoming more active in the state.
Okay.
Those are my two.
Representative Berger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm gonna have to agree with the e-filing. One thing I know we bring up and talk about Groundhog Day, but if we get complacent on safety and just kind of stop looking at it, I hope we don't. I hope safety is brought up in all aspects, and looks like we could pile a lot of safety stuff together, especially with the military department, with what they're wanting to do as far as protections for use of deadly force, those things, and then also through our highways. And then again, I'm really interested in this idea of permanent registration for trailers, and because we do see a lot of residents leaving our state and registering their trailers in other places, and they're taking our money and they're taking a one-time fee. It's just something that I'd like to at least take a look at, but we could also, anyways, that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Representative Stivar?
Mine will be YDOT, this Regional Emergency Response Team, Bomb Squad. I'd really like to see that one go forward. And on the military is the protection of use of deadly force and the military veterans member suicide prevention. It needs to be looked at.
Okay. Representative Damick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. first priority would be highway safety statutes. Take a look at them, see what we can do there. Always fun to look at the YDOT stuff, so. And then, of course, the regional response team, bomb squad funding.
Okay, and then Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My top would be the highway and road safety, and then YDOT's electronic processes for everything.
All right. I do have Devin back online. Devin, it looks like you're driving, so, or hopefully you're not driving and doing this, but yeah, you are in a vehicle, and I'm guessing that if you're in a vehicle in Wyoming, you may have not had service when we called on you the first time. So please, welcome to the committee, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for the issue there. I've been parked in Pinedale awaiting this opportunity, and the service is actually quite strong, so not sure what happened, but appreciate the opportunity. My name is Devin Brubaker. I serve as the airport director for the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. I stand before you representing the Wyoming Airports Coalition. We've been working with Representative Walters on an interim topic regarding aviation workforce development. In the aviation industry, between now and 2032, it's expected that there will be a shortage of 30,000 pilots and over 40,000 aircraft mechanics. And that has a direct impact on the reliability and the connectivity of air service here in Wyoming and in other rural states across the country. And so what our goal is and our hope is that either this committee or education committee or a tag team of the committees would work together with us and Representative Walters and other agencies, hopefully community colleges and others, to look at opportunities for Wyoming to lead the way once again in the aviation industry and develop education programs or workforce development programs here in the state to help facilitate additional pathways for these career fields so that we can ensure that our airports and our communities remain connected to the global economy. So, Mr. Chairman, tried to keep it very brief for you. Appreciate the opportunity. I know you had already closed public comment, so really appreciate that. Happy to answer any questions.
You're happy we like redheads. Except Representative Wiley. He can be a terror sometimes. So, yes, Representative Pendergraft has a question for you, Devin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Devin, for jogging my memory. When we met in Jackson Air Transportation Liaison, this was pretty much unanimously an issue brought up. And whether or not this particular committee takes that topic up, I'd be glad to work with Representative Walters and try to kick some ideas out as to how we can promote actually getting people into the cockpit.
Okay. I see the general has come forward on this one as well.
And Mr. Chairman, thank you. Obviously, the military also has a need for pilots in that, and all careers that support that. We'd be very interested in a partnership and discussions with that if Mr. Brubaker and whichever committee has it takes on that. I think we could maybe have a lot of synergy on that one, sir.
Okay. I'll just let committee know. I don't think there's. Oh yeah, Representative Berger's on the same committee as I am. Education actually received this as a potential topic for consideration as well. So doing the same thing YDOT is let's spread the wealth and see if there's anybody who takes up the topic. So yes, Senator Culp.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be remiss if I didn't state that I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I was an engineering student for flight, but I had a lot of friends that were in flight and A&P mechanics, and I can assure you it is a massive, huge lift. My son's a military pilot. I can assure you that he did not get trained as a civilian before he came in the military because they don't fly the same. Matter of fact, they get very upset if you try to fly a civilian aircraft like a military aircraft because you knock the landing gear off of it. So it is two absolutely different fields and different training. I think it's commendable that this is brought up, but I can assure you I wouldn't even fathom a guess on how much this would cost on trying to stand up a program to do what we're talking about in that broad of a sense. But it's worth a conversation because there is an issue, but there are universities in the United States that specialize in exactly what we're talking about here. And Embry-Riddle, I'm not trying to tell people to go to Embry-Riddle, but which my son graduated from in Hawaii, I might add. But it is a big lift. And I just wanted to add that as, I guess, being a citizen legislator, just to tell the committee just where I'm coming from and my background. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate that. I applied, got accepted, and just couldn't afford that dang place. So I feel your pain there a bit. Yeah, Co-Chairman, you have anything else? All good there?
Are we
Yep.
done with conversation?
I think so. Yep. So Devin, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too am an Embry-Riddle grad, so you got too many of us already, I can tell.
Okay, thank you.
all right, Mr. Co-Chair.
Yeah, thank you,
Floor's
Mr. Chairman.
yours.
Yeah, so looking at, it looks like that, I just mentioned that e-titling topic seems like it would be a heavy lift, but there's a lot of people interested, and the good thing about that is that we can have a lot of work happen in between meetings. And so just looking at the lobbyists in the room, if we do take up that topic, the expectation would be that you present a finalized product and work on a finalized product, either at the second or third meeting. And so we don't spend a whole lot of committee time on it. And so it seems like we have we know who all the players are, and it seems like that laundry list is a pretty comprehensive list of everybody who would be impacted. And so as we have everybody who's impacted in the room and in agreement, that's what we'd be relying on if we took up that topic. And so I think looking at just about all of these, I think we could, take a good hard look at a lot of these topics. A lot of them will be bringing up legislation that's already been considered, and not to do the whole Groundhog Day thing, but there's we can manage that time as I see fit, or as we see fit, and we can. And I think that we could manage quite a few of these topics, especially if we aren't afraid of a little bit of work in the in between meetings. So
absolutely.
Those are my comments, and I look forward to putting together, kind of what I heard here. I appreciate everybody's input and appreciate you getting, doing that in an efficient manner, Mr. Co-Chairman, and I'm sure we'll have a good proposal for management council here.
You bet. All right, with that, committee co-chairman and I will put together a list. We will, give me just a second there. Okay. We will put this together. I'll work together with Talise, just make sure we draw something up, and then we will let you guys all know what we are going to submit to management council. And then once we come back down to the Capitol in the next couple of weeks to produce this information, we'll let you know what we're going to be working on in our first meeting. Beyond that, the expectation is going to be, the co-chairman and I have decided on a Rock Springs, Laramie, Cheyenne route. So first meeting will be in Rock Springs. Second meeting will be somewhere in Laramie. And then the last one of general consensus is always coming back down here to Cheyenne. So we'll start booking hotel rooms and everything here shortly. And with that, we are adjourned.